Hello, and welcome to another episode of English in Mind, the podcast, where we learn English step by step and grow as people along the way. I'm truly happy you're here. Whether you're walking outside, sitting quietly at home, or taking a short break from your busy day, I hope this time brings you peace, clarity, and something helpful for both your English and your life. Today, we're diving into a topic that has followed me, and maybe you too, for years. It's called overthinking. And if you're anything like me, it's not just a word. It's a daily experience. It's the quiet, invisible weight you carry around that makes your mind feel too full and your heart too slow. I used to think that thinking a lot was a good thing, that being careful, preparing for every possible outcome, meant I was being smart or responsible. But that's not what overthinking is. It doesn't prepare you. It paralyzes you. It often begins with something small. You send a message, no reply. Your mind starts asking questions. Did I say something wrong? Was I too cold? Are they ignoring me on purpose? Then hours pass. You're still thinking about that one sentence you wrote. The silence becomes a mirror, reflecting all your worst fears. Even if deep down you know it probably means nothing, you can't stop the loop. I've been there more times than I can count. I would replay conversations in my head, what I said, how I said it, what I should have said instead. My brain would scan for mistakes, like a machine running a broken script. The problem wasn't the world around me. The problem was me living inside my thoughts too much, and life happening outside them. There was one night I remember clearly. I was lying in bed, lights off, everything quiet, but my mind was louder than ever. A simple task at work the next day had turned into a massive mountain in my imagination. I had written an email and scheduled it. Then I started wondering, was my tone okay? Did I include everything? Should I unsend it before morning? I even got out of bed, reopened the draft, and read it for the 5th time. I changed one word, then changed it back. That's what overthinking does. It traps you in a loop of small edits and big anxiety. The worst part, it never solves the problem. It just makes you tired. It makes your chest feel heavy. It steals your energy, your joy, your ability to just be. Overthinking doesn't always look like worry. Sometimes it wears the mask of productivity. You tell yourself you're just being thorough, that you're making sure. But inside, you know the truth. You're afraid. Afraid to make the wrong move. Afraid of judgment. Afraid to be seen as less than perfect. When I finally became aware of it, truly aware, I realized how much of my life I had spent thinking instead of living. I would hesitate to speak in meetings because I feared saying something dumb. I would write a comment on social media and then delete it. I would rehearse imaginary conversations in my head before going to sleep and still wake up feeling unprepared. That's when I knew I wasn't careful. I was trapped. Overthinking had built a cage around my confidence. And the funny thing is, it was a cage made of thoughts. Thoughts I created. Thoughts I could also let go of if I learned how. I started observing how it made me feel. Physically, mentally, emotionally. I noticed the tension in my shoulders, the shallow breaths, the way my jaw would tighten without me realizing. My thoughts didn't just affect my mind. They lived in my body too. And I noticed something else. Overthinking loves silence. The more still things get, the louder your mind becomes. That's why it often hits at night when there's nothing else around. No distractions. Just you, your thoughts, and the questions that don't have answers. What if I fail? What if they judge me? What if I'm not enough? Sometimes I'd even overthink the fact that I was overthinking. I'd say to myself, why can't I just relax? What's wrong with me? And that spiral of thought about thought was even more exhausting than the original worry. But here's something I want you to know. Overthinking doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're broken. It means you care. It means you want to do well. You want to be loved, understood, safe. That's human. That's normal. But just because it's common doesn't mean it has to control your life. Overthinking is a habit, not a personality, not a life sentence. And like any habit, it can be changed slowly, gently, but surely. So the first step I took, and maybe the first step you can take, is just noticing. Noticing when your thoughts turn into spirals, when a small concern becomes a cloud hanging over your day. And in that moment, instead of pushing the thoughts away or judging them, you pause. You breathe. You name it. I'm overthinking. That's okay. But I don't have to follow this path today. Because thought is just thought. It's not reality. And not everything your brain tells you deserves to be believed. Some thoughts are visitors, not residents. Some worries are echoes, not warnings. And some fears are just shadows, harmless when faced in the light. So as we begin this journey of understanding how to stop overthinking, let me say this again. If you find yourself stuck in your mind, unsure, tired from thinking too much, you're not the only one. You are not strange, and you are not alone. You're just caught in a habit that can be unlearned. And you've already taken the first step by listening, by being aware, by deciding that maybe, just maybe, there's a way out. And there is. The roots of the storm. I used to think overthinking was just a personal flaw, something in my personality that made me slow, cautious, and unsure. But the more I observed it, the more I realized it wasn't just about the thoughts themselves. It was about why those thoughts kept coming back, why I couldn't let things go, why my mind kept running ahead of my life. I began to ask, what's feeding this storm inside my head? And slowly I found the roots. The first root was fear, specifically, the fear of failure. I didn't want to disappoint people. I didn't want to make the wrong choice. I didn't want to look foolish or incompetent or weak. So instead of acting, I thought and thought and thought. Because thinking gave me the illusion of control. There was a time when I had to give a small talk at work. Nothing big, just 5 minutes in front of my team. I prepared for days, wrote and rewrote my notes, rehearsed in front of the mirror. But even the night before, I was still doubting myself. What if I forget my lines? What if I sound stupid? What if I freeze? The fear wasn't about the words, it was about the shame I imagined I'd feel if I failed. That fear turned a simple task into an emotional battlefield. The second root was self-doubt. I didn't trust my own judgment. I was constantly second-guessing myself. I'd make a decision, then immediately wonder if it was the right one. Should I have waited? Should I have asked someone else? Should I have done it differently? One day, I was writing an email to someone I respected. Nothing complicated, just a response to a question. I typed it out quickly, then stopped. Read it, reread it, changed a sentence, then another, then rewrote the whole thing. In the end, I spent 40 minutes on a 3-line email. Why? Because I didn't trust my own voice. I didn't believe that what I had written was good enough. That's what self-doubt does. It convinces you that you need to double-check everything, that your first thought is probably wrong, that someone else could do it better. It eats away at your confidence one small moment at a time. Then came the third root, perfectionism. This one was sneaky, because it wore the costume of excellence. It made me think I had high standards, that I was just trying to do my best. But the truth is, perfectionism isn't about doing your best. It's about fearing that anything less than perfect is failure. Perfectionism told me I couldn't send that report until I checked it one more time. That I couldn't post that photo because the lighting wasn't quite right. That I couldn't start a new project until I had all the answers. It told me that starting messy was unacceptable, that being seen as not ready was dangerous. And so, instead of doing things, I planned. I waited, I hesitated, and while I waited for perfect conditions, opportunities passed me by. The fourth root was fear of the future, fear of the unknown. This one is powerful because the future is unknown. And if you're someone who likes control, that can be terrifying. So you try to prepare for everything. You run every possible scenario in your head. You plan conversations that may never happen. You worry about what you'll say, what they'll think, how you'll feel. There was a time I wanted to apply for a new position. I liked the role, I liked the company. But before I even started the application, my brain jumped ahead. What if I get the job but fail? What if they don't like me? What if I move cities and hate it there? So I didn't apply. I never even started. I talked myself out of something before I gave it a chance. That's what fear of the future does. It kills ideas before they're born. It holds you back from taking risks, even small ones. It tells you that not trying is safer than failing. And the final route I discovered was this: I had built a habit. I didn't just overthink once in a while I lived in it. It became automatic, like a default setting. I didn't know how to turn it off because I didn't even realize it was on. It showed up everywhere. Not just in big life choices, but in tiny daily things. Should I order the salad or the sandwich? Should I wear the blue shirt or the white one? Should I reply now or later? These aren't life or death decisions, but I treated them like they were. That's when I realized it wasn't the decisions that were hard. It was the pressure I put on myself to never get anything wrong. And where does that pressure come from? From old voices, from childhood, from school, from moments when I was told that mistakes weren't okay, that failure was embarrassing, that being wrong meant being less. And those voices stayed with me, quietly shaping the way I thought. But once I saw them, truly saw them, I could begin to challenge them. I began asking, is this thought useful? Is this fear real or just a habit? Is this pressure mine? Or did someone hand it to me a long time ago? Awareness doesn't fix everything, but it's the beginning of freedom. And what I discovered was this: overthinking wasn't the problem. It was a symptom, a signal, a messenger telling me that something inside needed attention. Maybe I needed more courage, maybe more self-trust. Maybe I needed to forgive myself for not being perfect. Whatever it was real, and facing it slowly and with compassion helped me loosen the grip that overthinking had on me. I want you to ask yourself the same thing. When you overthink, what's the real reason? What are you afraid of? What are you trying to protect? Because once you find the root, you can begin to grow something new. Breaking the loop. The hardest thing about overthinking is that it feels like you're doing something productive. You feel like you're solving a problem. But deep down, you know you're not moving. You're just spinning, going in mental circles. Overthinking doesn't lead to action. It delays it. It drains you. It makes you tired before the real work even begins. I got tired of being tired. So one day I decided to try something different. Not big, not dramatic, just something small. I didn't want to fight my thoughts. I just wanted to stop letting them lead me. The first thing I tried was this focus on the present. I know it sounds simple, maybe even a little cliché. But when your mind lives in the past and future all day, the present becomes a place of peace. I began asking myself, what can I do right now? Not what I should have done yesterday. Not what I might mess up tomorrow. Just what's in front of me. When I was nervous before a call, I'd take a deep breath and say, right now, I'm just preparing. When I was scared before giving feedback, I'd say, right now, I'm just writing a few notes. By focusing on what I could control, I slowly stopped obsessing over what I couldn't. The second thing I started doing was writing down my thoughts. It's incredible how powerful this is. When you keep thoughts in your head, they grow, they echo, they morph into fears. But when you write them down, they shrink, they take shape, they stop hiding. I started carrying a small notebook. Every time I felt anxious, I'd pause and write. Sometimes just one sentence, sometimes a full page. I'd write things like, I'm worried they'll think I'm not good enough. I'm afraid to speak up because I don't want to sound dumb. I don't know what to do next. Seeing the words in front of me made it easier to respond, to ask, is that true? Is that helpful? Most of the time, the answer was no. The third thing that changed everything was this taking small actions, especially when I didn't feel ready. That's the key. Do it before you feel ready, because that feeling of readiness, it rarely comes. Overthinking waits for the perfect moment, but progress happens when you start anyway. I remember a time I was scared to send a proposal to a client. I kept tweaking it, reading it over, editing words that didn't need to be changed. After 2 days, I realized what was happening. So I made a rule, 5-minute timer. When it ran out, I'd send it no matter what. My hands were sweating when I clicked send. But once I did, the relief hit instantly. Action silences anxiety, even small action. The fourth habit I built was this: talk to someone. Overthinking thrives in silence, in isolation. When you're alone with your fears, they sound louder. But when you speak them out loud to a friend, they shrink. I remember calling a friend late one night. I told her, I'm stuck. I've been thinking about this decision for days, and I don't even know what I'm afraid of anymore. She didn't give me magic answers, but she listened. And her calm voice reminded me that I wasn't alone. Sometimes we don't need advice. We just need someone to hold the space for our thoughts, to help us hear ourselves more clearly. And last, maybe the most powerful shift of all, I gave myself permission to let go of perfection. I stopped asking, is this perfect? And started asking, is this enough? I stopped aiming for flawless and started aiming for finished. I reminded myself that mistakes are not disasters. They're data. They teach. They shape. They help you grow. This shift allowed me to move faster, try more things, and stress way less. It didn't make me careless. It made me free. One day, I met someone who had been struggling with overthinking just like me. Her name was Emma. She was preparing for her first big public speaking event. She had everything ready: notes, slides, script. But every time she sat down to practice, her brain told her she wasn't good enough. She kept editing, rewriting, starting over, until she finally reached out and asked, how do you stop your mind from screaming every time you're about to do something important? I told her what had helped me: focus on now. Write down the fear. Take one step, even tiny. Talk it out. Forget perfect. She paused and said, I think I've been trying to get rid of the fear completely before I act. And that's when it clicked for both of us. You don't have to feel fearless to move forward. You just have to move anyway. A week later, she gave the talk. Her hands shook. Her voice cracked once, but she did it. And after she told me, the voice in my head was still there, but it didn't win this time. That's all we need, really. Not perfection, not silence, just progress. Just a little bit more space between the thought and the action. A little more trust in ourselves. So if you're someone who overthinks someone, who rewinds and fast forwards through every day but struggles to be in it, I want you to know you are not broken. You are not behind, and you are absolutely not alone. Your mind is powerful, and sometimes that power works against you. But you are still in control. You can build new habits. You can create new stories. You can live more and think just enough. Let's recap. Focus on the present. Ask, what can I do right now? Write your thoughts. Get them out of your head and onto paper. Take small steps. Action breaks the cycle, even if it's tiny. Talk to someone. Speak your thoughts. Let someone help you carry them. Let go of perfect. Progress matters more than polish. These aren't just tips. They're tools. Use them one at a time or together. Use them gently. Use them like reminders that you are allowed to live a life that isn't trapped in your head. You don't need to fix every thought. You don't need to solve every feeling. You just need to move little by little into the kind of peace you deserve. Overthinking is a mental habit that can make you feel stuck exhausted, and afraid to take action. It often starts with small worries, but can grow into paralyzing loops of self-doubt, fear of failure, and perfectionism. In this episode of English in Mind, we explored the hidden roots of overthinking, why it shows up, how it affects our lives, and what it truly costs us. But more importantly, we talked about how to stop it. 5 practical strategies can help you break the loop. Focus on the present, write down your thoughts, take small steps, talk to someone, and let go of the need to be perfect. Each of these tools creates space in your mind and helps bring you back to the moment where real life is happening. You also heard a story about Emma, someone who faced her fear, used these simple tools, and found the courage to speak in public imperfectly but powerfully. Her story reminds us all that we don't need to wait until we feel ready. We can act while afraid, speak while uncertain, and move even with doubt in our hearts. Overthinking doesn't define you. You can learn to live beyond it. Thought by thought, step by step, you can build a life that feels lighter, clearer, and more free. And it starts with one small decision to stop thinking and start being.